Hi, it's Dr. Melinda Mann, double board certified in OBGYN and lifestyle medicine. A lot of patients lately have been asking me about the Rambam and my opinion. And I just answer them, I don't have an opinion. But a lot of people really have been insisting that I try to review what the Rambam states and my opinion of that. Does it really jive with current medical advice? So I'm not going to study those sources directly, but I do have this book on my shelf, To Your Health, written by Rabbi Yechezkel Ishayek. I hope that I pronounced that correctly. It's an Iraqi name, I believe. He was a personal assistant to Rav Shach and a Masid Talmud Chacham in his own right. This book was published in 2016. It's actually in 5 languages right now. So it's in Russian, French, Hebrew, Spanish, and Yiddish, and English. So a lot of this book talks about what the Rambam says, but there's a lot of quotes from Chazal all over the place throughout the millennia, and he has amassed tremendous numbers of quotes to justify his recommendations. It's a very interesting book. At the time when I first read it, which is probably when it was first published, I found it was a little tedious and hard to plow through, but it's worth it. Now I read it again, and I find great value in it, so I would recommend that everybody read it. To take it literally, a lot of the stuff, yes. Some of the lifestyle interventions that he recommends more towards the back of the book, he doesn't give footnotes on, so it's hard to know about some of the recommendations about day-to-day living. But in terms of food and how to eat, this is spot on, and it's just very fascinating. One point before I get into the book is all of these chazals that I read about. We talk about nowadays that we're living in a toxic food environment and ultra-processed food, and the food industry is out to get us, and we just can't help ourselves because we're hardwired to like salt, fat, and sugar, and so the food industry is always busy dreaming up the absolute perfect combination of fat, sugar, and salt to make us want to overeat, etc. But from all of these quotes that I've been reading in this book, it appears that overeating and overindulgences were a feature from day one in society. So there were challenges in those days as well. I just want to read you a couple of quotes that he included in his book. This is directly from the Rambam in his introduction to Seder Zerayim. An expert doctor will never prescribe medicine when he could prescribe food. And the next one is from the Meiri in his introduction to his commentary on the Talmud. One of the soundest principles in medicine is that as long as a doctor can prescribe nutritious food, he should not prescribe medicine. Okay. They practically invented lifestyle medicine back then. And here's something again from the Rambam. I'm skipping to page 141. The Rambam writes, overeating is like deathly poison to every person, and this is the main reason for all illnesses. Most illnesses that come upon a person are a result of eating bad foods or because he fills his stomach and overeats from even good foods. And then he embellishes a little. So these are old ideas. There's nothing new here. Now, if you look on the book, he has basically a summary of all his points. I'm just going to run through them for you. And I'm going to focus on a couple of them, which have to do with what I consider to be mindfulness, or nowadays what we call mindful eating, or mindfulness in general, which means you have to know what you're doing. And it's interesting because the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, although they do talk about nutrition and sleep and physical activity, avoidance of risky substances, stress management, and social connection, this book is a little bit different because it talks more about how do you drink the water and how do you eat the food and how do you sleep, and everything is sort of fitting together in a very harmonious way. And I believe that this, in a certain sense, is a little more sophisticated than what the American College of Lifestyle Medicine is preaching. And I wonder if we would add this layer of the Rambam's approach, would we see even better results with a planned forward dietary approach. And he does mention in his book that plant-based protein is perfectly acceptable, by the way. Okay, so here are his habits for healthy living. Oh, here's a quote from the Vilna Gaon. When you eat right, you eat your food. When you eat wrong, your food eats you. Okay. He's got all this stuff all throughout the book. Kitzer Shulchan Aruch. The body's health or its weakness depends mainly on digestion. There's nothing new here. Okay, so his habits. Avoid sugar. Don't smoke. Don't overeat. Avoid margarine. Avoid white flour. Minimize salt intake. Don't talk while eating. I'm going to get back to that. Avoid artificial sweeteners. Avoid becoming angry. Avoid fat and deep fried foods. Don't sleep within 2 hours after a meal. Don't drink from 20 minutes before a meal, during a meal, and within 2 hours after a meal. I'm going to get back to that. Chew well, very well. Use whole wheat flour. Exercise before breakfast. I'm going to get back to that one. Take the proper amount of vitamin D. Keep track of your own medical test results. Eat 5 to 8 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Eat 1 gram of protein for every kilogram of ideal body weight. And that's pretty close to the World Health Organization. It's 20% more, but it's still within range of a normal protein requirement. And he does talk about the dangers of excess protein. Every day, drink half a fluid ounce for every pound of your actual weight. So if you are, let's say, 150 pounds, so you need 75 ounces of water a day. So you're talking, each cup is 8 ounces, so you can do the math. So let's go back, and I'm just going to touch on 3 of his points. Exercising before breakfast. And he likes to talk really very much about the digestive system working the way it was intended to work. We don't really think about that very much. But his point about doing a little bit of exercise, not a big workout, just to get the body up and moving and to kind of warm up the body so that it functions better. So that's his point about a simple walk, let's say, before breakfast. The next interesting point and he does really delve into this in a lot of detail. Don't drink from 20 minutes before a meal, during the meal, and within 2 hours after the meal. So he likes to use the term digestive juices, let's say saliva, the acid in the stomach, and the other enzymes that exist in our digestive tract. His point is, you want to come to a meal well hydrated, but you don't want to dilute out these digestive juices because you want to digest your food as effectively as possible. So in addition to chewing, which I'm going to talk about as well, don't talk when you chew, but what he recommends is when a person gets up in the morning to take a big drink And if their stomach's empty from the night before, they should wait 10 minutes and then they can go ahead and eat, because the stomach empties the water after 10 minutes. The water travels to all the organs of the body and helps improve the body function. If it's a different part of the day and a person plans to eat, then he recommends taking a drink and waiting, a drink of water, of course, and waiting 20 minutes for the water to clear out of the stomach and get distributed in the body. And his point being that a well-hydrated person is able to digest food better, because a state of dehydration is not conducive to proper digestion. So then we don't drink while we eat, because we want those digestive juices to be at their proper concentration to fully digest the food. And he even goes so far as to advise individuals to wait 2 full hours after eating a meal before drinking, because it takes about 2 hours to really do a good job of digestion. Now that's kind of interesting, because when we deal with diabetics, we tell them there are different ways of monitoring their blood sugar, but we tell them eat and then do a finger stick 1 hour or 2 hours. I have them to like 1.5 hours. But a common way of telling patients to check their blood sugar is 2 hours after a meal, as a reflection of their ability to metabolize the glucose and assimilate it. So we have kind of outside corroboration of what he's saying, is that the 2 hour mark really truly represents the majority of the digestive effort of the body. So I think this is rather fascinating. He has a lot of testimonials in the back of his book of patients who followed this. The truth is, I try to follow it also, but I get caught up in life, as we all do. And I found that it's really great to come to a meal knowing that you're fully hydrated and that you don't have to drink. Even today, being that I'm reading the book again, before the meal, I tried to refresh my conviction to try to adhere to this. And I drank a lot. And then someone came up, and I didn't have any drink by the meal. And someone came up to me and said, "You don't have a drink. Would you like me to make you a tea?" And I said, "No, thank you. I just drank a lot before the meal." So it works. This I've done myself, and I could tell you that it really does work. And people have lost weight doing this, because if you're eating the right food and you are extracting a maximum nutrition because your enzymes are thoroughly concentrated, etc., it only makes sense that you're going to get healthier from it and you're going to feel more satisfied. So it's not only the chemical digestion. This is regarding the water. We're talking about the chemical digestion. You also have the mechanical digestion. And he addresses this also about chewing, and don't take large bites, and chew thoroughly, and make sure you don't swallow until everything is thoroughly chewed. And it gets me a little nauseous when I read this kind of stuff about chewing thoroughly, and it makes me think to myself, is that all eating is about? You put something in your mouth and then you chew it down until it's nothing and then you swallow it. Why do we get so worked up over food if all we're doing is just chewing it into a mush and then swallowing it? Okay, but we're still human. But if you think about it that way, it kind of takes away, I don't know, some of the pleasure or something associated with eating. Okay, but then I forget about it. But what he says, don't talk while eating. Okay, what was his point? His point is that since our breathing tube is right next to our swallowing tube, the swallowing tube is called the esophagus, and then we have the breathing tube, and then we have this little flap that covers the breathing tube. It's called the epiglottis. So his point was that reflexively, if we talk while we eat, we're more likely to try to swallow before we finish chewing, because our body instinctively wants to empty the mouth out of food when we talk, because we want to avoid, God forbid, choking or inhaling food. So his point was that people who talk while they eat, they're swallowing and they're not getting enough saliva in their food, so they're missing out on that, but they're also swallowing chunks of food. And so these chunks of food, when they get into the stomach's like, whoa, what is that? What am I supposed to do with that? And he gave an analogy of the stomach being a muscular organ, which it is, and it uses this kind of massaging motion to help digest the food and make it into, let's say, make more surface area so that the final digestion can take place in the upper part of the small intestine. But his point is that when you talk, especially on the phone, when you're eating, you're really creating a situation where you are at risk for not digesting your food properly, and you're going to lose the value of the food that you're trying to eat. So if you're eating healthy food and chopping and swallowing and talking, you are missing the point. So he spends a lot of time on that. Again, that gets back to mindfulness. And he also spoke about some other behavioral interventions that could help make your digestion more ideal. I think a lot of it is we don't think about how to digest our food in the most ideal way. And I definitely think that the American College of Medicine should take heed and maybe look at this book and maybe adopt some of the recommendations. So, of course, he gets into sleep and he gets into physical activity, stress management. He has a section on smoking and doesn't really touch too much on social connection. Of course, coming off of Simchas Torah, we all had a heavy dose of social connection. It could be, he assumes, that observant Jews have those social connections. So, but the other 5 of the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine he definitely touches on. So I would recommend this book very, very much. A lot of it is surprisingly completely up to date in terms of food and nutrition and mindfulness. Like I said, towards the back, he has other types of recommendations about different behaviors and different exercises that, for me, without the documentation of his recommendations, for example, he gives a recommendation here: oranges and grapefruits should ideally not be eaten during meal times. One should wait at least 2 hours after a meal or an hour before the next meal. He doesn't really say why, and there's no footnote. And then he also says that persimmons, we don't eat too much of that in the United States, they're difficult to digest, and health organizations recommend that elderly people eat no more than 1 a day, while younger people should eat no more than 2 a day. So these recommendations, I'm not sure where they come from. But then there's other recommendations that are very well documented. For example, grilling meat over coals can cause cancer. We know that those black charred pieces of meat could be carcinogenic. So that I don't need a footnote for because I know about it already. But it would be nice for the parts in the back to be more footnoted. I just want to mention one other thing. They said in the name of the Chafetz Chaim that, again, it's like someone told someone who told someone, but the story in the book is that someone went to the Chafetz Chaim for Shabbos meal, and they saw his challahs were brown. They weren't white. And the guest was in shock. And the Chafetz Chaim said to him, brown bread is very good. And then he added a second comment, brown bread is very healthy. So Chazal, our Gedolim, it seems like they were quite scrupulous in watching what they ate. And there's even a comment there that someone who overeats to the point where they're kind of stuffed, that they may not, just like someone who's drunk, may not be qualified to daven properly, almost that someone who overeats, and especially eating the wrong food and too much of it, their Birkat Hamazon may be lacking. They may not be qualified to recite it. It's kind of interesting. It's a kind of a severe comment, but I think we don't realize how much our ancestors were able to perceive that physical health is something to be guarded in a very precious way. We've kind of lost that. And that's another reason why I like this book. So all in all, I recommend the book, but you have to just sit and go through it. I would like to go through it again with the yellow magic marker. I read it over the last week. I'm probably going to read it again and use yellow magic marker. So I hope that you found this video helpful. It's a 22-minute video, kind of long. We don't necessarily have the attention span for that. But please try it. Try the book. Let me know what you think. And I would like to hear your comments, and possibly if you would like me to review any other books. Thank you.